Hey, it's Josh Jacobs, and you're listening to Fantasy Football Counselor.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. The season is starting. Tim, it's Thursday. I can't wait. This is real excitement coming from me and you today. We're talking starts and sits. Tim, are you ready to go? The season is here.
I'm ready, man. All those naysayers, all those guys, oh, the season's not happening. It ain't going to happen, man. There's no football this year. Shut up. Here we go.
Here we go, man. I'm beyond excited. And today we're talking about starts and sits. We're going to walk through every single position and walk you through guys that have optimal matchups versus guys that are having tough matchups. Now, this is going to help you guys with your starts and sits in year long, but it's also going to help you with DFS. After you play DFS, I do a Saturday show, so make sure you guys are subscribed. This is going to give you a practical show. I'll even walk through a lineup with you guys and really help you guys on Saturdays to really help you with your DFS lineups for daily fantasy. Now, listen, Tim, tonight we got the Chiefs versus the Texans. Beyond excited. I got my setup here.
I know.
I'm ready.
You're looking forward to this one, man. You're looking forward to DJ. Can he shine?
So I'm excited. Now, Tim, you know the studio's here in my basement here. We've got it set up. So I showed people on my Insta. If you're not following on Insta, I've linked it below. Follow at Fantasy Football Counselor. So I've got the main studio here. And then here we've got a couch here. We've got the TV. Now I'm going to set up my Bose sound system here. And hopefully it doesn't go up 2 levels. Now I might go through the vents to my kids when they're sleeping. But hopefully the wife lets me crank the sound and audio. But here's the thing. There's no crowd, so it's going to sound weird. Like,
this is going to be a challenge, man. This is going to be, does the home team really have an advantage nowadays? I mean, yeah, as a player, it probably feels good just to be at home. Right. You know, it gives you a little extra boost, but you don't have that crowd noise the way you normally do. You don't have the fans kind of hyping up and trying to make it harder for the other team. So let's see what happens. This is going to be interesting. So, I mean, when we talk about quarterbacks, to me, that's where it really matters, home or away. It doesn't matter so much for a positional player, but this is going to be a challenge, man.
But my question is how is it going to sound on the surround sound? Is it just, are you going to hear every bone crack?
Yeah, that's it. Maybe you hear all the bangs a little better. It'd be awesome.
I'm curious to see how the production of the audio will be for the game. So I'm going to have my sound out, but you're not going to hear the roar of the crowd. So I want to kind of hear the,
well, you can just play that in the background all the time.
Yeah, I'm going to play that every time David Johnson gets a touchdown tonight. So, all right, so let's go to the start.
Oh, you'll play it once.
Yeah, let's go through the starts and sits, guys, here by play it once. Listen, we're going to go through the starts and sits, and I'm going to link below Fantasy Direct if you want direct access to me. I'm going to be texting you guys the DFS plays, optimal plays every week. You're going to get, what else you get? Your 5 locks of the week for the teams I like that are going to, cover the spread that week. You're going to get waiver wires delivered right to your phone, Fantasy Direct below, or thefantasyfootballcounselor.com under programs. All right, so let's start with quarterbacks here. Now, I'm looking at this. Now, here's the thing. Disclaimer here. Disclaimer. A lot of the analytics in our research is predicated on last year, guys. So we're kind of going off last year's defense. So we don't really know. So we're saying right now, I feel like I see the matchup here, and I see Jimmy G's got one of the, if not the best matchup versus position. One problem. The draft has happened. It's a new year, different offense. So we're going on last year when the first week. Now it's going to take us about 2 to 3 weeks. And even for like any type of betting you're doing or anything you're doing, you got to look at, the first 4 weeks, because that's going to lay a foundation as to what to expect on the performance of these teams. So when I'm looking at this, Tim, you got to take a little bit of lenience. So like, for example, Cam Newton is playing Miami. Great matchup, but understand he's on a new team. Miami's a different team this year a little bit. How are they going to succeed, right? You got to take that into consideration.
Exactly. Let's just say the first couple of weeks are the times where if you're a guy who likes to take some risk and take some long shots, now's the time to do it because, yes, we don't exactly know what we're going to get this year.
Yeah, we got to get a feel. So I like a little, I'd say about 3 to 4 weeks to get a feel of who this team is and get a better idea. So let's start off here with quarterbacks. Some optimal plays here at quarterback. Jimmy G's got a great matchup versus Arizona. Cam Newton, can he come out strong? Are these receivers strong enough? And Big Ben have arguably the 3 easiest matchups versus position. Big Ben playing the Giants. What do you think of those 3 guys?
So Jimmy G, Cam Newton, both of them are at home against the teams. Is it going to make a difference? Is that home field advantage still a thing this year? Or is it just going to be another game where kind of as let's call it a level playing field, no pun intended. Big Ben on the road against the Giants, man. I like it. The fact that all these guys have an easy matchup, I don't really care for any of them. I don't have stock in any of them. Big Ben, I'm really interested to see what he can come back with, man. What's the team going to be like this year? I mean, Juju couldn't cut it last year. You've got no AB. You got no Le'Veon. Like, this is a totally different team. Add Big Ben back into the fold. What's it going to be?
Yeah, and it's a primetime game. Now, if you guys know, Monday is going to have, there's 2 games. Pittsburgh at the Giants, right, in New York. And then you got Tennessee at the Broncos. So you got 2 Monday nighters, one at 7:10 Eastern, the other at 10:20 Eastern. So that's exciting. You get 2 games that day. I'm excited to see what Big Ben does. Obviously, like I said, new receiving core, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, nice big targets. I am really excited about that game, man. And we're going to have to see Saquon. I got a lot of Saquon Barkley stock that game. How is he going to work in the new offense with a, slightly improved O-line? Super excited. Other optimal matchups you want to consider starting at the quarterback position. Pat Mahomes tonight. He's got a good matchup versus Houston. You got Mitch Trubisky, believe it or not. Now, he is playing Detroit. Got one of arguably the easiest matches versus position, predicated pretty much on last year. Now, here's the interesting thing about this one is that he has to perform. Mitch Trubisky has to perform. There's no question about it. If he doesn't, I would say, win 3 out of the first 4 games, Nick Foles is going to be right there. So it's a must win for the Bears on the road versus Detroit. And they are a 3-point underdog, believe it or not. So a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Mitch. His team saying that he's basically, he's changed, he's a new person, this and that. I got to see it to believe it. So he is a sneaky DFS play if you want to start him this week.
Yeah, I mean, just because of the matchup alone, you really got to consider it. If he's one of your quarterbacks on your team, you got 2 quarterbacks, just because of the matchup this week, he is definitely worth a look. And then it's funny because to round out the top 7, you've got Tyrod and Teddy Bridgewater with some of the easiest matchups. I'm like, I'm not looking to start either of those guys. I would never put any stock in either of them, but hey, easy matchup. Anything can happen first couple weeks. Is it worth a shot?
Yep. Drew Brees got a good matchup as well. We won't move through every single one. We'll give you some ideas. Gardner, Minshew, Lamar Jackson, mid-range matchup versus Cleveland. Now, Lamar this year, I got to talk about him. Now, pinnacle year last year, phenomenal. They brought in Dobbins. That might alleviate a little bit of that pressure for him to run. It's going to be interesting to see how many points he puts in the air, how many points he puts on the ground. Similar to Josh Allen, 9 touchdowns for Allen last year. Will that continue or will he throw more now that he's got Diggs? So, that's a situation I'm going to be watching. We're going to be watching both Lamar and Josh Allen this year to see if they're going to continue running or are they going to start throwing more. Something to watch and monitor the first couple of weeks here.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of hard to tell a guy, hey, just stop running. Just don't do it anymore, man. We don't want you to get hurt, so just don't do it. It's something they've been doing probably their entire careers. So it's not like you can just flip a switch and say, okay, I'm going to throw even when I feel I should run.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. A couple of tough matchups. Let's go the other way. Ryan Fitzmagic against New England. I think that's a tough matchup as well. Who
tough start for Baker. Baker's in tough.
Baker versus
against Baltimore. Yeah. Sam Darnold, I don't care. Daniel Jones, I don't care. I think you're kind of high on Jones a little bit this year. I'm
not crazy on him.
I mean, he's your 2, right? You've got him on your bench.
No, actually, I don't have any Daniel Jones stock.
No,
I got a lot of Drew Lock backup stock. I've got Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill stock. I don't really have a lot of Daniel Jones. I think he's going to have a safe year. I'm just not fully in on him this year.
Right. And then Kirk Cousins as the 5th hardest.
Yeah. So, and then you got Tannehill, 9th hardest. Kyler Murray. A lot of people starting Kyler Murray. So here's the deal. Now, in 16 rounds, I say make sure you guys get, a backup quarterback. So Kyler Murray, a lot of people got him in rounds 5 to 7. Okay. Now he's got a tough matchup. Arguably one of the hardest matchup, 10th hardest matchup I've got listed here based on my projections, playing Arizona. Playing San Fran. So if you're playing San Fran, you've got Kyler, you've invested a 6th-round pick. It's like, okay, man, I want to start my starter, but what do I do? If you have a better option, like some of the guys we mentioned, you may want to consider them. But now I'm all about starting my starter, but sometimes you got to be realistic. Now, Tannehill's I'm backup in some of my leagues. He's got an easier matchup than Kyler this year. Would I start? Tannehill's got similar actually just as hard. Actually, that's a bad example. Let's say a backup is, let's say, Tom Brady. Tom Brady's got an easier matchup. So Would you start Brady or Kyler Murray? What would you do, Tim? I'd probably go Brady in this case.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that doesn't believe in the saying, always start your starters. No, man, I am going to look at the matchups. I'm going to try to look at historical, versus how did they do last time they played this team. I'm always going to look for that kind of information. So, there are when it comes to a quarterback, it's not such a big deal to me. I think any one of them can shine any day. It doesn't take a lot. To me, it's more the positional players that if a running back that's, kind of a mid-tier RB1 has a hard matchup and my RB2 I'm feeling really good about, I might plug my RB2 in and just not even play the one.
Right. I mean, in year long, you got to start these guys. If they're your starters, to most part, you got to start them if you don't have a backup. Like, for example, Aaron Rodgers, he may be a starter for a lot of people. He's got the 8th hardest matchup versus position. So be careful. He's playing Minnesota. So, again, a couple guys, tough matchups you need to be aware of, okay? Fitzmagic, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill, and Kyler Murray. Those are kind of the top 10 guys that have the hardest matchups. Now, be cautious with Joe Burrow, rookie, playing the Chargers defense week 1. I'm a little suspect with him. So if you are starting him, I mean, you should have a better option at quarterback for year long than starting Joe Burrow. So he does have a tough matchup, okay?
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on here. So you've got your good matchups from Jimmy Garoppolo, Mitch Trubisky, Pat Mahomes, Big Ben, Tyrod, Teddy, and Russell Wilson. And we just went over your hard matchup. So let's move on to the all-famous running back position. Now, guys, please leave your fantasy questions below. I appreciate it, guys. I will get to as many people as I possibly can to answer some of your starts and sits here on the YouTube channel. And of course, it really helps the channel, guys. Please leave a thumbs up. I know it's, it takes a couple seconds of your time. But again, as we said before, Tim grows a hair on top of his head every time you get a thumbs up. So,
we're not getting enough.
A million thumbs up are encouraged. It almost seems like, you're getting a gray hair every time you don't get a thumbs up. So
yeah, you bastards keep on giving us the dislikes or the thumbs down.
No, for every view. So if this view's got like 5 or 10,000, and if we have, let's say, 500 likes, you get a gray hair for every view that doesn't.
Oh, I'll take it.
You're already there.
I'm okay with that.
All right, so let's move on to the running back position. So let's start off. Let's work.
Look who's got the easiest. No, don't change it up, man. Look who's got the easiest.
My man, Josh Jacobs. Now, I like Josh Jacobs versus Carolina. Optimal matchup here. I am beyond excited about this year for Josh Jacobs. I've got a lot of Josh Jacobs stock. And to be honest, I went robust RB. Josh Jacobs was drafted by myself at the end of a lot of my first round drafts. Now, so when you look at him this year, I mean, obviously a start. I mean, this is another situation where obviously you got to start your starter to some degree. Let's move on here, Tim, real quickly here. Another good matchup for a lot of running backs. Now, here's the situation. There's a lot of we got to talk about this.
Is this the 2 name? Are you talking Indy here?
Yeah. So there's a lot
in the top 7, I've got 3 teams where I kind of put a slash. So I'm not saying there's a definitive RB1 on this team. I'm saying, damn, it could be this guy or it could be this guy, this guy.
So I get a lot of these questions. So good point. So Colts, Rams, Buccaneers are 3 examples of like, okay, this is going to be a hot hand type thing. So let's talk about this real quickly before we go into who's got a good matchup here, even though we know the Colts do versus who are they playing? Jacksonville. Okay. So you got Jonathan Taylor, you got Marlon Mack. Now they said Marlon Mack is the starter, but they're going to ride the hot hand. So I'm questioning the volume that Taylor's going to get the first game out. So first drive, I definitely see Mack getting the ball. Then comes maybe Taylor for a third down, maybe the second drive, Taylor comes out. And if Taylor breaks out for a run or two, if that happens, now they've got a good old line. Taylor's ultra talented. If he breaks out, I think he stays on. And then they're going to kind of work in reverse. I think they're going to go Taylor, then they're going to work Mack. If Taylor runs that hot hand, he stays on. So a lot of people asking, do I start Taylor? I'm going to say if you have a better option, like a guy that's kind of like guaranteed the starting position, you go with that. And that's similar, and that goes across the board when you're looking at Cam Akers and when you're looking at Rojo and Fournette. Fournette, I mean, they said that Rojo is the starter. That's BS. And then Bruce Arians, he's a liar. Then he comes out and says, oh, well, Fournette's going to get more work than expected. He's doing really well. So it's a total BS here, Tim. And to be honest, you just really got to touch and feel. But Taylor, Fournette, and Cam Akers, I think, are my prediction that will prevail by, let's say, week 3 or 4. They should be the slated starters.
Right on. So let me ask you then. So the third easiest matchup is Miles Sanders / Boston Scott.
Right.
You're probably going to say Sanders all the way. I'm not so sold, so I'm leery on that because I think it's going to be kind of a split no matter what.
That's a good point. Now, let me add on that. Now, Miles Sanders, they stated that he will be limited. Now, he was dealing with a lower body injury that was undisclosed. I believe maybe it's been disclosed, and I'm not aware of it yet, but I think they're hush-hush about it. But I read recently Miles Sanders. I read yesterday, he says he's healthy, but there is a chance he may be limited. So, yeah, Boston Scott could be a sneaky DFS play this week. So, if you are starting Miles Sanders, if you have a better option, meaning if you went robust RB, and you've got someone else that's just a bit better and they're starting full out, you may want to consider them. Don't be upset if Miles Sanders is limited. You need to be aware of that, okay? Moving on here, another guy. This is crazy. David Montgomery, still uncertain about the status. Apparently, he is questionable.
Oh, yeah. I don't think he's playing, man. I think this is a Tariq week all the way.
Yeah, Tariq Cohen, again, I'm not excited, but he does have a ceiling if he gets the volume. I'm just not sold on Tariq, as a player. Moving on to other easy matchups, I'm staying away from this committee with the Patriots. Patriots running backs obviously have a good matchup versus Miami. You may want to consider starting him. And then this guy, David Johnson, got a really easy matchup, around 5th easiest versus position at the running back position versus KC tonight. Tim, David Johnson, primetime, chip on his shoulder. He's been, ridiculed by the media saying, how could you get ripped off? O'Brien's on the hot seat as a coach who made this decision. So if I'm a coach and if I'm David Johnson, I'm going to prove, things right. And I heard David Johnson said he'd run through a wall for this coach. So I'm excited, man, about this matchup.
You should be excited about this game in general. And so since we're talking RBs, who's got the 7th easiest? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So Houston, KC, baby, this should be a running game.
What's going to be really interesting about this, now I've got some Clyde Edwards-Helaire stock, not as much as you think, but I've got a little bit of stock in him, and I was seeing him come off as early as the 6th pick overall. Yeah. That's, actually I've seen him come off 5th once in an Experts Pro League, in a big money league. Anyway, listen, so he was a top guy. Now it's going to be interesting to see side by side, neck to neck, a 4th round pick, 3rd to 4th round ADP, David Johnson versus a 1st round pick. All the media, everyone's hyping him versus a guy they're not hyping. Let's see who prevails. I know it's one game today, but it'll be a good feeler on what to expect moving forward to the season with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and David Johnson. It's a showdown, man. I'm beyond excited.
Yeah, it's an exciting one. We've talked up David Johnson all year so far, and I'm not really sold on Helaire either. So I'm really interested. I want DJ to really have a great year. I think he's primed for it. CEH, whatever. I don't care.
All right, other easy matchups. Let's just rapid fire here. Mark Ingram, Dobbins. Again, another feel and see thing. I think Mark Ingram gets a start. Dobbins can emerge. Other easy matchups include Austin Eckler. Now we're going to see who's going to emerge as the 2. I think it's going to be Joshua Kelly there. Keep him on your radar. Dalvin Cook and Madison also have a pretty easy matchup versus Green Bay based on paper, based on last year. Again, Dalvin Cook, something to watch here to see if it's a make or break. Again, like I said, literally speaking, he has to perform this year, Tim. Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, man. So you mentioned Eckler. So just so everybody knows, I don't play a lot of leagues. I don't like to. I am more of a DFS type guy. I will say I wanted Eckler everywhere. Everywhere I could get him, I would take him. I didn't get him in our FTFN league. However, my team name is Eckle My Balls.
My goodness.
I love him. Do it, man. Show everybody, especially Joe.
No one's going to be echoing anybody's balls on this show. All right, let's move on here. Joe Mixon, easy matchup as well. And then it starts getting to the mid-range matchups. Todd Gurley versus Seattle, not the easiest, so he's kind of in the mid-pack. Christian McCaffrey, mid-pack versus the Raiders defense. Then you've got Ezekiel Elliott, also kind of in the mid-range, kind of easy matchup. Then you've got another bit of a committee here we got to talk about. Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay. What do you do? Who do you start? Who do you sit? Listen, if you invested a 6th-round pick, which I told you not to, Melvin Gordon, you got to start him, right? 5th to 6th round picks he was coming off. So,
you should have better options, man. If you didn't take him till 5, 6, you better have 2 other RBs that you can play instead.
No, you'd be surprised, man. A lot of people went with the robust wide receiver, or they went 0 RB, I should say, and they ended up with Melvin Gordon as their RB1, which is a shame, and that's what I was telling people. So you got to start him, and believe me, Philip Lindsay's going to eat. I'm telling you, he's a pest. He won't go away. Another committee here you got to watch is Detroit. I mean, DeAndre Swift was a little banged up. He should be healthy from what I'm hearing. Adrian Peterson there now. What a disaster. Then they got Carry On. I mean, hell, oh, hell. I mean, I'm staying awake. I stayed away completely from that. And then Aaron Jones, I mean, can Dillon come up for some volume there? Now, these guys are all mid-range matchups, nothing to get excited about, but if they are your starters, start them. But a lot of people invested a second-round pick in Aaron Jones. I think A.J. Dillon slated third on the depth chart, but look for him to emerge as I think he is the future of the Packers. But they're saying Aaron Jones is going to be, there's a deal supposed to be done with Aaron Jones. I don't know, man. This is a lot of question marks here, Tim.
Yeah, so let's just get into the hardest matchups, man. Let's not talk so much about those mid-range because they can go either way. I don't put a lot of stock in that. Once you start hitting like the eighth hardest, whatever. These guys should be able to prevail against that or, do what they do anyway. So hardest matchups, man, you got some big names here. I'm not too worried about this one. Jordan Howard, I don't care. Alvin Kamara, second hardest. Kenyon Drake, third hardest. So there's a couple of big names that guys might have invested some big numbers in and, not going to have a good start to the season. Fourth hardest is, like you said, Fournette, Jones, McCoy. Holy crap, stay away from that. And then number 5, Saquon. But he's Saquon, baby. I got him. I'm not worried.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Saquon. Fifth hardest matchup versus position against Pittsburgh D. May have some struggles, but again, this is really going to be a telling tale of him. All right, so let's go here. I'm talking Baltimore. Cleveland's got a tough match versus Baltimore, so you need to be aware of that. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, they might have a little bit of a struggle here, Tim.
Yep, I'm all for that. I'm staying away from that committee anyways. We've talked about that one over and over and over.
We're going to see, man. And that's why first week is so exciting because, again, it's going to be a real telling tale on kind of how things pan out. How much carries is Nick Chubb going to get versus Kareem Hunt? Who's going to emerge in these committees? We got so many question marks and nobody really knows. And that's the uncertainty of fantasy. And I don't think week 1 is really going to fizzle it out for us, but at least it gives us a sample size of what to expect.
It's a start.
Well, let's move on again to the wide receivers. Let's go to starts and sits there. And the wide receiver position, so deep this year. And I really feel some wide receivers are going to emerge this year in regards to rookies. So something to be aware about. Guys like Justin Jefferson, Pittman, Ruggs, Edwards for the Raiders could emerge. So let's talk about the starts and sits. I mean, look at this. Michael Thomas versus the Buccaneers secondary. Easiest matchup versus position. Obviously, got to start him. Who else do you want to go with here? Edelman. I mean, I'm not really sold.
You don't like him, but I think he's good. I think he's got it.
Smart DFS play versus Miami. Terry McLaurin. I've got some stock with him against Philly secondary. Third easiest matchup versus position or second easiest. Tim, I mean, look at these guys. Robinson, like I said, with Mitch Trubisky versus Detroit secondary. He could have a big game. These are some easy starts. The Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers. Look out, man. They've got an easy matchup versus the Giants secondary. So look for Deontay Johnson, maybe Claypool to have a big game potentially as a DFS play. Other guys to look at, you want to look at Jacksonville versus Indy secondary, DJ Shark having a relatively easy matchup. But again, guys, this is predicated pretty much on last year's kind of projection. So I kind of compensate a little bit, but you still got to be aware.
I think you kind of skipped 2 guys too, Tampa Bay at New Orleans. So you've got to watch there as well. You got some guys you can play. So I just want to hit on this again. So when we talk about this sort of thing, a lot of times we might be talking about only one player for that team. However, what we're telling you guys is that position has an easy matchup. So not just this one player. So when you get a committee or a team like Pittsburgh, where you're not sure nowadays, you're not sure if it's going to be Juju, Johnson, Claypool, we're telling you basically all those receivers have an easy matchup. These are guys where, if you don't have a better option, even as your wide receiver 2 or as a flex, you might want to play one of the guys on this team. You might want to play a Claypool.
Yeah, you just got to use some common sense, guys. So, like I said, for example, Mitch Trubisky was an optimal play matchup-wise. Am I going to start Mitch Trubisky if I got, Matt Ryan or if I got someone, Pat Mahomes? I'm probably not going to start Mitch Trubisky. And that's the funny thing. People are going to come at me and say, well, Joe, you told me Mitch Trubisky had a good matchup, but he had 2 points. He had a good matchup defensively. It's not my fault he sucks. you gotta use a little bit of common sense here, guys. So let's continue on here. Other optimal matchups at the wide receiver position. I think Diggs, there's a pretty easy matchup there versus the Jets secondary. So again, when we say Diggs, If you got Cole Beasley, John Brown, they are in a position to have a good matchup. Do you start Cole Beasley? Not necessarily. If you don't have a better option, maybe, right? But again, matchup wise, I'm just telling you. So it relates. Alan Lazard, Devontae Adams, both have a good matchup versus position. Any other good matchups, Tim, that I'm missing here?
No, like I say, once you start hitting that 8, 9, 10 mid-range type things, I don't even look at them, man. I want like the top 5, top 7 when it comes to easy matchups. Give me the top 5 hardest. That's enough information for me. I don't care about all the mid-range.
All right, so you got to look at Miami receivers week 1, man. They've got a tough match.
Yeah, you got to look at friggin' running away from them.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone invested a pretty high capital in Parker, but again, they are playing New England, so you got to be careful. Another team you got to be careful with is not that they have any receivers, but you got to be careful with the Jets receivers. I mean,
oh no, my Crowder stock is going to go down this week.
Like, who do you start? What do you do? I mean, do you even start? Do you even draft a player from the Jets like Crowder, Perriman, Mims?
I think you do. Maybe you start picking them off in round 7, 8.
Yeah, and I don't even know. KC secondary is kind of a little bit better, a little bit from last year, but again, Will Fuller having a little bit of a hard time. Cook's limited. Be careful with Brandon Cooks, already limited going into the season. Man, oh man. Also, you got to look at, again, Cincinnati secondary with Burrow. We talked about Burrow having a tough matchup versus the Chargers. So are their wide receivers. So be cautious if you're starting AJ Green, guys like that. Also, believe it or not, now here's a situation where, Kenny Golladay, elite talent versus the Bears. Now, do you sit Kenny Golladay because he's got a tough matchup, 5th hardest versus position? No, you don't. He's your best receiver. He's playing Chicago. This is where common sense guys comes in. So you're telling me, Joe, Cole Beasley has a good matchup versus Buffalo, but Kenny Golladay has got a tough matchup. Who do I start, Joe?
Okay, using that example, I'll totally agree with you. But I mean, I was like, no way, man. I would sit him if I could. And if those are my 2 options, though, you got it right. I'm playing him.
You got to be aware that he is up against a tough matchup. So, you invested, let's say Golladay, for example, you invested a 2nd-round pick, which is where he was going. And let's just say, knock on wood, I mean, God forbid he has a bad matchup in fantasy because I got Kenny Golladay stock. You can't judge him based on that 1 week. It was a 5th hardest on paper versus position. So you got to ease up. It's the first week, and there's going to be some craziness going off. You're going to have a guy like, let me give you a name here. Like Tristan Jackson is going to go off. You're going to be like, who? I'll be like, that's a wide receiver for the Rams. He's like a 4th stringer. You'd be like, well, I want to pick him up off waiver. You'd be like, no, sometimes these guys come off the bench, Tim. They run a route. Goff finds a receiver, or Pat Mahomes finds a receiver like Pringle last year. They have one good game, and that's it.
It happens every year, man. I love it. I love seeing the rush after a guy has a great game. Everybody just has to get him.
And then they invest their entire budget. It's like they go FFAB, your free agent acquisition budget in some leagues. If you got some people, whatever your budget is, it's $200. I've seen people spend $150 on like a Pringle in week 1. I'm like, dude, he had like one good game. It was the game of his life. Relax, like easy on the waiver wires there with your budget. All right, and one more here, 10th hardest matchup versus position, T.Y. Hilton versus Jacksonville. It's going to be interesting to see how he does and those Colts. So let's move on here. Let's wrap this up with the tight ends. And again, Saturday DFS show. I'm going to go over this a little more in detail for DFS. So make sure you guys tune into that. I'll give you some optimal plays there. But again, we got to cover some starts and sits.
So when it comes to the tight ends, man, we got some big names with easy matchups, buddy.
Go for it.
So George Kittle, easiest. And then Carolina, who cares? But they got the 2nd easiest. And then number 3, my boy, Hayden Hurst.
Your man, Hayden Hurst. You know what's the opposite of Hayden Hurst? It's like he's got this long flowing hair. Is this what it is? Do you like him so much because
I am jealous of the hair. That's probably it.
Because you're lacking the physical attributes that Hayden Hurst possesses, so you idolize him.
Dude, I am lacking the physicality of almost all of these guys. I don't care if they're the punter. They're in better shape than I am.
Listen, your idolization is compensating for your lack of hair there. So, anyway, Hayden Hurst does have a pretty easy matchup versus position versus Seattle, believe it or not. So Hayden Hurst could get some volume in this game, man.
Yeah, man. This will be a nice tell for the year. He should come out and perform.
And then we got Ertz versus Washington.
Don't forget Mark Andrews. He's right there too.
Did I miss Mark Andrews?
You missed Mark Andrews, man. Fourth easiest.
Versus Cleveland. There
He's
you go.
He's going to eat.
That's why you're here, man. You're not always there when you call, but always on time. All right.
And I'm not always right either, but yeah, whatever.
How about my guy Fant? Pretty good matchup there versus Tennessee. Other good matchups. Jared Cook. I got some Jared Cook stock there. Came on strong near the end of the season, getting a lot of touchdowns. Last 3 games, 23 points, 12 and 10. Putting up those solid tight end fantasy points. Playing against Tampa Bay. I like the matchup here. And Travis Kelsey, a relatively easy matchup tonight versus Houston. Obviously, what you see is what you get. You should get a good performance out of your second round pick, which is where people drafted him. So Travis Kelsey, Tim, what do you think? Kelsey tonight? What do you think? Big game?
Yeah, I mean, we did our top 10 a little while ago. I got Kelsey as probably like my 4th or 5th tight end, and people gave me crap about it. I don't care. I see guys like Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst outperforming. Is he going to have a good game tonight? Hell yeah, he is. He's Kelsey, man. He's always going to have a good game. I'd never dump on him. He's amazing. I just think some guys are going to be in front of him this year.
This is an interesting one. Now we're going to the sits of the week. Now, again,
number 1 sit. Ouch.
Now, this is interesting because a lot of people drafted Austin Hooper predicated on last year's performance. Matt Ryan, new team, new offense, playing for Cleveland versus the toughest defense. So you've got Austin Hooper here now. A lot of people will start him. Now, if he's your only option, if you invested high draft capital in him, which I did not, then you got to start him. But just know that he's got the toughest matchup versus position at tight end versus Baltimore.
Now, the one thing I always say, too, when it comes to a tight end is expect 10 points. If you get 10 points out of your tight end, you should be pretty happy. A lot of these guys can do better, but even plug in a guy like Austin Hooper, who has the hardest matchup, for him to get 10 points is still pretty damn easy, man. I mean, 1 touchdown, 3 catches, 40 yards, it doesn't matter. It's fairly easy to get 10 points for a guy like him.
Now, I'm not excited to start any of these guys. Green Bay's tight end, Sternberger, tough matchup. I know not a lot of people are starting him, or Dawson Knox. Actually, he's got a tough matchup versus position, believe it or not, against the Jets. They apparently block well against the tight end. So we got, no one's really going to start Dawson Knox really necessarily in a deep league. A lot of people have Chris Herndon versus Buffalo. He's got a pretty tough matchup as well. Another guy you want to be aware of here now, this is crazy. This is another one you don't want to sit because he's ultimate elite. But versus position, Darren Waller, okay, be cautious with him versus Carolina. They do well against tight ends, so something to be aware of. And again, I can't wait till week 3 or 4. Then it fizzles out and we get a good feel as to what's going on here. But Darren Waller, you got to start him, but he's got a tough matchup. Be aware.
Yeah, I would never be concerned about playing a guy like Waller because we all know that Carr just loves his tight ends anyways. So he's going to force it. He's going to make it work. He'll get those 10 points no matter what.
Another 2 names you want to be aware of, tough matchups versus position that, have big names and a lot of people own them, is Rob Gronkowski versus the Saints, 9th hardest versus position, and Mike Gesicki playing New England. I've got some Gesicki stock. Does have a tough matchup this week. So there you have it, Tim.
Right on, buddy. That's it. We did the list.
We covered a lot, man, and there's a lot of information here, but I got to tell you, is it 8 o'clock Eastern yet? Because I want to watch these games.
It's going to be a nice night.
All right, guys. So also, Fan to Fan Network, we got our premiere tonight versus the battle episode versus our Chiefs ambassador versus our Texas ambassador, and we go around the league in divisions doing a battle. Beyond excited. Make sure you guys go to fantofannetwork.com and follow FTFN on YouTube. Go do that right now. Tim, I'm excited, man. The season is here. I've said that enough times in this episode, but it's here, man. That's
Thank God. Thank God. I need some football.
Those are your NFL Week 1 fantasy football starts and sits for Week 1. I'm excited. Smash that thumbs up. It grows a hair for Tim. Join the Tim Grows a Hair Foundation, and we're out. I'm beyond excited.
Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy the game tonight.
We'll talk soon. We're out.